Good morning. My name is Bobby Turner. I'm a past PIN co-chair and currently PIN's current treasurer. And I'd like to welcome you to this morning's presentation. We're so glad you're able to join us to hear Andrea Pittman and Danny Google talk to us about how to help kids enjoy summer downtime, but not lose as much of the learning they've experienced in the past school year. Before we get going, I just want to mention that this is PIN's 21st month of programming. Usually we take the summer off, but last year we elected to keep providing parenting resources because of the pandemic. So after 21 months of programming, we are all ready for a break. This will be PIN's last presentation of the school year. Our fall lineup will appear on PIN's website, which is pinccsd.org. And it's not up yet, but it will be posted as soon as it's available, I would think maybe over the next month or so. Also on the website, you can sign up to receive emails from PIN. That's a great way to just get the information about upcoming presentations in your email box so you don't ever have to miss one. I'd like to take just a quick moment to thank our PIN Platinum sponsors. One is the Nectar Group, which is actually presenting today. The other sponsors are Chile Camps, Induc College Impressions, Happy Canyon Flowers, and also Sandstone Care, which provides treatment programs for adolescent substance abuse and mental health. So today, our speakers are Andrea Pittman and Danny Google. Andrea is the founder of the Nectar Group. As a former middle school teacher, Andrea left the classroom to pursue work in neuroscience. She has spent the last 19 years helping families and schools treat the root causes of learning challenges. Danny Google is the center director at Nectar. She is a master's in reading intervention from Regis University and was also the middle school teacher in Colorado, as well as internationally. So Andrea and Danny, if you're able to take it from here, that would be great.
Perfect. Thank you, Bobby. We'll get our screen shared here. Jump right in.
Perfect. Thank you guys for joining us today for our presentation on how to spend your summer and how to prevent the summer slide. So we're super excited to be with you here today. A couple of quick notes as we are going through and presenting. We know you might have some questions. We would love to be able to answer them. So just pop those in the Q&A box and then we'll either answer them for the whole group or we'll type back an answer if it's something pertinent just to yourself. And then we will be referencing a handout that the PIN will have on the website for you to access, to download. You can print it out. It's got a ton of resources that we're going to go over today. So please feel free to use that handout for all of the suggestions for the upcoming summer. So really quickly, we'll just jump in with who the Nectar Group is, just so you guys know who we are, and then we'll go right into the content. We are a cognitive neuroscience and education company dedicated to helping students overcome learning and memory challenges so that they can reach their full potential. Grounded in neuroscience, we change the brain by delivering customized cognitive training, tutoring, and study skills and executive function programs for students of all ages. With our assessment-driven process, we use scientific tools to actually find the root cause of learning challenges, and then we create customized solutions to help resolve those root issues. Today's topic is no different. We love to be able to go over how to maintain learning over the summer in really fun ways. We work with clients ages 4 all the way through the lifespan and with all types of diagnoses, ADHD, dyslexia, autism spectrum, kids who are twice exceptional or have traumatic brain injuries, all of those diagnoses. We also work with students who are looking for a competitive edge, looking to start their college prep journey, or who need any kind of help with tutoring. We provide all of our services online via our e-coaching services. So no matter where you are for the summer, geography-wise, we can help. Sorry, I have a little bit of something in my throat. A couple of goals for us today. We want you guys to understand the importance of engaging kids during the summer. We know how tempting it is for this summer to be, a break for kids, but there's really fun ways to keep them actively involved in education and learning, and we're going to go over all of those. And then we're going to help you actually create a summer plan for your kids to help them catch up, keep up, and get ahead. And that include options such as enhancing the cognitive skills, helping develop academic skills, providing enrichment and experiences for your kids this summer, and enhancing overall brain health, because the brain needs support even in the summer. So to begin, let's actually discuss what is summer slide. It's often a term that parents hear, but what is the research behind it and why does it occur? According to Johns Hopkins University Center for Summer Learning, students suffer from learning loss when they do not participate in any educational activities during the summer. Students lose an average of 2.6 months of grade level equivalency in math computational skills over the summer. Math is actually the #1 skill that's impacted by summer break. And unfortunately, that means that teachers often have to spend the first couple of months reviewing these concepts, further delaying new knowledge acquisition and growth. Reading can be impacted significantly. Many students actually regress 1 to 2 months, not as significant as math, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty big. And they are impacted in reading comprehension, vocabulary skills, and the extent of summer learning loss is actually larger at higher grade levels. Foreign language or math are significantly impacted for high school students. And so we always love to look at how can we stop that learning loss, or how can we integrate simple activities into the summer so that we can maintain those skills. Most importantly, one of the most impacted subsets of students are actually those with learning disabilities, because interventions that are provided by schools, great interventions that support them during the year, are halted for the summer, therefore stopping progress and closing gaps. So this is actually opposite of what we really want to see. Summer is a time when students can make significant gains in closing any gaps they have in cognitive deficits, content, and other interventions. So they don't have to keep up with an entire day of school. So they can dedicate time to just 1 or 2 hours per day in closing these holes and catching up to their peers. Here are some of the statistics of summer slide. So like we said before, 2.6 months of math skills are lost over the summer. And we're going to give you lots of easy, fun ways to include math in the day-to-day. The equivalent of 1 month of overall learning is lost after summer vacation. 6 weeks in the fall are spent relearning old material to make up for summer learning loss. 2 months of reading skills are lost. 2 to 3 hours per week during the summer vacation is all that is needed to prevent learning loss, which is, in the scope of a week, that's barely any time needed, especially with how many hours in a day our kids have. Summer learning loss impacts students as young as first grade. So even our littles need that enrichment in the summer. And 2 months of subject-focused learning is all it takes to improve specific learning skills. So, June and July, you can bring up all of those gaps. And by the end of 6th grade, students who have experienced summer learning loss over the years can average 2 years behind their peers. Just think, this is without any learning challenges as well. And so the reason we share all of these statistics is it's just important to know, how can we use summer to make sure this doesn't happen? This last slide we're looking at is actually the reading and math summer learning loss over grades 3rd through 8th grade. So we can see that the loss is doubled for math in each grade, but it's significant in both content areas either way. It's important to understand that this loss occurs so that we can approach summer as parents with a plan to combat any learning loss. And actually, I think we have a question of why summer slide occurs. So that's a really great question. And we always love to explain this. So without going too far off topic, it all comes down to the use of the brain's neurons, which is what we like to really dive into at Nectar. Our brain utilizes our neural pathways and connections for whatever it needs the most. So therefore, during the school year, kids use them for learning and academics. Your neural networks are firing and wiring for all of your math and reading and writing you're learning in school. But during the summer, if they're not using these pathways, the brain sometimes prunes these connections for other uses, or they just aren't firing and wiring together as much. So we want to make sure we're keeping those neurons firing and wiring all summer. And one last thing that we like to go into, a little bit of history for your day, is why do we have summer breaks if this much learning loss is occurring? And when we look at history, we actually know that summer breaks were created in the 18 to 1900s because 85% of Americans were involved in agriculture, and the time was needed for the family, including all of the kids, to help with harvesting. And so urban schools back in the 18 and 1900s actually had 11 to 12 month school cycles because they didn't have kids that were needing to go to help with harvest. But as families were mobilized and populations changed, school systems actually had to standardize the school year because there was a mix of agricultural and urban families in the same area, and that's why summer break was created. So today, do we need that break? No. The shape of our agricultural system has vastly changed, and it actually makes up a small percentage of our families. The average student in the US attends school 175 to 180 days per year, but the global average shows a really big difference. Students in Japan spend 240 days per year in school. So when you're planning, all of that being said, great history, but all of that being said, when you're planning your child's summer break this year, we totally understand the desire to give them a break. But including 1 to 2 hours of educationally focused activities can not only be super beneficial, but it can impact their next school year. Of course, changing summer breaks would require change at a national level. So what we need to do as parents and educators is look at how we can prevent that summer learning loss at our level.
One other thing to note this year that while I think we're all fatigued of talking about, but that is really relevant, is that preventing the summer slide this year is really more important than ever, because the reality is that COVID-19 disruptions to school have been hard for all students and even for the best schools and districts. So just some of the statistics coming out of this pandemic, period in our education, it depends on multiple variables of how these statistics apply, but we're seeing that across the board, students have realized a learning loss of anywhere from 4 to 12 months over the past year. So typically we obviously don't have learning loss during the school year, it's just in those summer months, but this year we're heading into summer with most children at some level, again, no fault or no criticism of schools and educators who have done the best they absolutely can, I think, for the vast majority. But we know that there has been loss that has occurred. Students with learning disabilities and learning challenges have been particularly impacted, as providing services to these students has been really challenging. If you consider a few statistics that I had just been reading, Danny actually shared these with me from the American Institutes for Research, is that 73% of districts in the USA, when surveyed, said that after COVID-19 hit, it was more difficult for them to provide appropriate instructional accommodations for students with disabilities. 82% said it was more difficult to provide hands-on accommodations and services for obvious reasons. And 57% of districts said it was more difficult to engage with families for help with the requirements of a student's IEP or individualized education plan or 504 plans. And these are so important, obviously, because they outline the goals for students with disabilities and the supports and accommodations that they would receive to meet those goals. And of course, there's been major disruption for all students, but in particularly affected are those with these additional challenges. So this, of course, leaves parents and educators, all of us that care about students and education, asking what we can do about this. So it's really interesting. I found some studies when I've been looking at our own programming at the Nectar Group and how we can support families with this, that have looked at studies at past disruptions to learning loss. Obviously, in our lifetime, there hasn't been a pandemic that really caused widespread learning loss, thank God, and hopefully there won't be another one. But we do see in circumstances of natural disasters where schools have been shut down for many months, things like earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, et cetera. And so they've been able to study that. And it's given us clues to the best ways to overcome the current issue. So I'm just going to divert here for just a second from our summer plans, because this helps us understand what we can be doing this summer. So assessments, we know, are really key to accurately pinpointing how much loss has occurred and what specific skills need to be remediated. And then frequently a disruption in traditional learning can also bring to light potential learning disabilities and weaknesses that can benefit from treatment. So testing can be a really useful tool to determine what and if there are issues present, in addition to any of the COVID-19 impact. Second is, once skills have been pinpointed, the next step is to work to remediate specific areas of deficit with someone who is able to provide ongoing assessment to ensure that the gaps that have been created are being treated strategically for that individual student. And then again, summer is an ideal time to assess and address losses and potential disabilities. Students, of course, as we know, have more time, which gives them time for plenty of fun and a break, which is definitely needed for our mental health and our kind of to restore. We're all ready for that, I think, that time for recuperation and reset for a new school, but while still closing the gaps and addressing some of the learning difficulties to set them up for a successful new year. So we are going to dive in, now that we kind of have some context of why this matters, into the really, I think, fun part of like, what do we actually need to work on and how can we do that? So we're going to talk about a plan for your child's summer to integrate all the essential areas. We recommend that when you're making a summer plan, have your kids be co-pilots and part of that plan. Children of all ages are much more satisfied with a balanced summer, including one that includes some academic and cognitive activities, when they get to have a say in it. Like all of us, we want to get a vote in it, especially with how we spend our time, right? So we recommend that you have your children contribute some ideas by having them complete what we call my summer plan handout. So in the packet that we mentioned at the beginning, that's on the PIN website where you can download it, we actually have a template that's a little questionnaire and kind of goal setting sheet template for kids of all ages. And it's where they are able to set goals and activities that they'd like to do this summer. And that will help you inform your decisions and give them a voice, and just even kind of a fun way to connect with your child about what they're needing. You know, I think that all of us just feel kind of off from the pandemic and how our lives have been so altered for such a long period now. And so this can give a great place, without talking about the pandemic directly, but just to hear from your child and what they're needing. So make sure you download that packet and grab that worksheet in there. You can print it off, do whatever you want to with that to do it with your children. So another thing I mentioned is a really important word when it comes to planning and enriching summer, and that's balance. So some of the keys to great, summer balance is to allow for some structure, but mixed with plenty of downtime and fun. You do still need some parameters and some frameworks and some schedules. We know, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but without that, students can tend to become more anxious because there's a lot of unknowns or unpredictability. You want to make sure that you don't overschedule. So everyone needs a break for sure, including all of the adults this year in particular. You want to allow time for the following areas along with the play, which is enhancing cognitive skills, enhancing and maintaining academic skills, and looking ahead. If you don't have a gap, if your child hasn't developed a gap, or you're not concerned about catching up, you can also look ahead and preview material for the next school year for those strong students. Engagement and enrichment. And we also really love to utilize summer to keep up with good brain health practices, or maybe start some new ones. And also, of course, maintaining physical health, which I think, again, for all of us has been a bit more on the back burner with, all the big gap our kids had in sports and outdoor activities and just social events. So we're going to talk briefly about what we call the potential pyramid. If you've attended any of our webinars, you've seen this. We talk about it every single time because it's so foundational. And this is going to help us explain the key areas we want to focus on over the summer to prevent that learning loss and even close some gaps from the last school year. So by addressing these areas, that's how we help them catch up, keep up, and even get ahead. So we call this the potential pyramid because we find for students to really reach their full potential academically, they need all three tiers of this pyramid working well. And at the foundational level are the cognitive skills. You can think of these as similar to your computer processor. They're always working in the background, allowing you to take in information, process it, make sense of it, and save it for later retrieval and usage. These skills are of particular importance because over 90% of learning disabilities are caused by one or more weaknesses on this tier. Just as an example to help understand this, low working memory and low processing speed are strongly correlated with ADHD. And we know that dyslexia is caused by low auditory processing. So all of these skills really are foundational to how our children learn. Our second tier is is content, and that's more like our knowledge bank or our database of information. It can be reading, writing, math, science, history, really any subject matter. This is primarily what we go to school for. We go to math class and language arts class. We don't have memory class or processing class. And then finally, we have our behavior as the top of the pyramid, which encompasses a ton of things like grit, work ethic, self-confidence, how you take tests, how organized you are. A lot of our executive function skills, you might be familiar with that term, live here as well. So the two areas we really need to help our students in during the summer are tiers 1 and 2, the cognitive skills and the content. So these are the tiers where the slide tends to occur and or learning loss, whatever you want to call it. And so today we're going to dig into the ideas for both of those areas and activities that you can do at home. So we're going to look first at enhancing cognitive skills as one of our key categories. And I will reference that. I'm going to walk through each of our cognitive skills and some ways that you can enhance this with your students at home. And in your packets that you'll download, or if you already have it, you'll see there is a chart that we've listed all the different games and activities that we're recommending. So don't feel like you have to frantically write all of these down. Just print off the handout and we've done that work for you. So your cognitive skills are considered innate or non-developmental skills, meaning they don't change without something like intentional intervention to make them change. However, skills can digress over summer breaks and other periods of atypical learning like COVID, because the pathways and skills aren't being utilized the same way they are during the school year. So as I said, we're going to jump in here and look at each of these. So the first skills we'll look at are our memory, both our long-term and short-term memory. So short-term memory is also referred to as working memory. So if you've heard that term working memory, it's a really key element to learning and executive function. It involves information recalled after less than 1 minute. Imagine in your brain that you've got two buckets like we have on our slide here, and either bucket can have leaks. You've got a short-term bucket and a long-term bucket, but either one can have leaks. And long-term memory is the ability to store and recall information for later use. Our brains transfer information from our short-term to long-term memory. So if you have a weak short-term memory, you could be pouring in lots of great information and instruction, but it runs right out the bucket. So when you go to transfer it to your long-term memory, there isn't anything there. So there's some really great games you can play with your kids, and many of these are great for all ages to work on memory at home. So this one is one of my favorites because it's old school back to my childhood, which is Simon. So the big old disc with the colors that light up and it plays sound. So you can play Simon because it's great for short-term memory. And it's one of the few games that works on auditory memory because it plays the tones. A cool way that you can work on this, so we've got our visual memory, how well do we remember things that we see, and our auditory, how well do we remember things that we hear only. And a great way to modify Simon so that it only works on one of the two so that you can really isolate it and strengthen it. If your child is the kiddo that when you give them multiple step instructions, like go to your room, grab your soccer cleats, brush your teeth, and come back down with your shoes, and they go and they do none of that, or they do one thing, or you go find them and they're building a Lego set instead. This could be a great activity for them to strengthen their auditory memory. And all you do is you take the Simon disc and you put like a dark colored towel over it. And so it blocks the colors, and then you have to play it and push the buttons and the patterns by memory only. And so you're having to use your auditory memory to strengthen that. Some of the newer versions of Simon also have where you can turn off sound and then you're just following the lights flashing. And so you can utilize it that way. In terms of doing just visual memory, how well do you remember information that you see only? So that's a fun one to do. There's another board game that you can get just at like Target or Amazon, wherever you shop, 5-second rule. It's super fun, but it helps with quick memory retrieval. And it's one of those games that you can play in the car. It's got a deck of cards and a little timer, and that's it. So for road trips, on airplanes, it's super fast. The timer does make a noise, so maybe not on the airplane. Use a different timer if you do that so you don't annoy everyone. But 5-second rule is super fun. There's also a line of they're digital games as well as these old school books, and they're from a company called Dr. Memory, and they have all kinds of fun activities and exercises and games that you can utilize to memorize math facts, to memorize like the presidents, to memorize states and countries, and it really can teach you some great memory techniques. And then you can create your own. So we recommend that families do kind of fun competitions for memory based. So for example, a favorite book, show, or activity, quiz each other, see if you remember specific characters, kind of make trivia around the things that your family enjoys, so that your child is actively utilizing that memory. And it's good for adults too. And then we always recommend too having a grocery list competition. So if your kids are going with you to the grocery store, make your list and then have everyone try to memorize it. And then when you get to the store, everyone try to get all the items in the cart and then check your list and see what you forgot. Things like that can be really fun and actually kind of jazz up some of the more mundane activities like grocery shopping. But that can be a great way to integrate some of this. Our next skill is processing speed, and this is the rate that the brain can take in information, route it to the right location, and process it. So we often compare this to the internet speed on a computer. You can have a supercomputer, but if it's connected to dial-up internet, it's going to still run slowly and seem like the computer is broken. So we want to make sure we're using games that engage our processing speed and push it up so that we're increasing its speed. So I've listed a bunch. This is probably one of the easiest categories to find games in because so many games are competitive with time or speed. And so things like stacking cups, if you've ever done the stack cups, if you haven't, look it up on YouTube. You can see some pretty amazing kids doing it. It's pretty fun. Maybe it'll provide you some inspiration. Actually playing an instrument. So if your child plays an instrument, keep them practicing, or if they have always wanted to, but they haven't, this could be a great summer to start. Playing an instrument, reading music requires you to have good processing speed. We use a metronome in music, right? The tick-tock that keeps you on the beat. That forces your processing speed to process at the beat of that metronome. Taboo, the game Taboo, if you've ever played, is super fun, high speed. They actually have Taboo Family now, which is pretty cool because it gives you a deck of cards for the parents when it's your turn and a deck of cards for the kids that are easier. And so it allows you to play as a family with age appropriate cards. So super fun options, categories, fun game 7, 8, 9. There is a game called Rock. That's really fun. That's got a timed thing. One thing that is super fun that, again, playing an instrument is community drumming circles. This might sound, if you're not familiar with this, it's not like something weird, but there are community drumming circles that will allow you to, like, you have all different drums and you learn different rhythms and play together, and they have them in the evening in the summer. Hudson Gardens has them. I think it's like $5 to attend, and they will provide drums for you. So check that out because it could be a really fun summer activity that also happens to benefit your processing speed. We also have our visual processing. This is your ability to perceive, analyze, and think in visual images. It's the mind's eye. So games that you can play to work on visual processing are Spot It, just doing good old fashioned puzzles. Danny actually gave me a puzzle for Christmas. I hadn't actually done a jigsaw puzzle in years and had so much fun doing it and realized how much it does actually truly work your spatial skills. I bought another one and am now using that for some of my downtime because it's super fun and great for that part of your brain. Just Legos. Most kids do enjoy Legos. Origami. There's all kinds of fun origami online you can print off or that you can look at and follow the instructions. There's really fun little origami games. Good old fashioned Rubik's Cubes are fantastic. There's a game called Blockus, and then those learn to draw books where you look at the images and you're copying it and it'll show you how to make a cat or a horse or whatever you're looking at. Those are fantastic for developing spatial skills. And again, super fun, something we a lot of times don't have time for in the school year. We also have our logic and reasoning, which is the ability to reason, problem solve, and plan. So games that you can play at home. Again, there's lots of games. This and processing speed are probably the two easiest to find games for. One of our favorites is 5 Crowns. That's probably for middle schoolers and up. It could be actually even challenging logically for adults. It's a card game. So 5 Crowns, there is Sequence, and Sequence does have Sequence Junior and Sequence for adults. So or older kids, so you can find the one that's appropriate. Monopoly, if you can endure the never-ending game of Monopoly, you have to have strategy and logic and use some math skills. Clue, again, some of our old-fashioned games are some of the best for these, and Risk. Again, another one that takes a long time is probably more appropriate for middle school and high schoolers, but fantastic. So any games that require strategy or problem solving. And then we also have auditory processing. This is your mind's ear, and it's your ability to hear and distinguish different sounds and make sense of verbal information. We really focus on a subset of auditory processing that's called your phonological processing. And you can think about this as like phonological, which is phonics, so the sounds in words. So word games are fantastic. One of my favorite is a super fun card game called Last Letter. It's by a company that makes educational games called Think Fun, and they are super fun. I just actually sent this one to my nephew for him to do this summer. There's one called Quiddler that's more for older students. There's one called Word Spiel. For older students, there's even one I don't have on here that I'll just throw in because I've had some feedback recently that it's pretty fun. It's called Woker. So like the word poker, but Woker. And it follows some of the general poker rules, but with words, and you're trying to put together different sounds and words and vocabulary. So pretty fun stuff. And then we have our attention. I have a feeling that many of you would love for your child's attention to improve. I think a lot of us really saw children struggling with attention more than we maybe even realized with at-home learning. And obviously all of our attention spans have been stretched with how much we've had to be online. But attention is the ability, as we know, to stay on task, to switch between tasks, and also to ignore distractions. So this list of games is fantastic. All of them are super fun, and they all require you to exercise your attention muscle in the brain. So if your child does have ADD or ADHD, or even just you'd like them to be able to focus a little bit more, you can still have a weak attention span and not have a disorder. Some of the games at home are listed here. One called Who Knew, Perfection, distraction, and mind trap. Again, all of these are listed in your packets, so you'll be able to reference them. And these are all easily found on Amazon, or is probably your easiest place, but Target, Walmart, these are all things that are readily available if you want to utilize them. So games are a great way to maintain and engage cognitive skills at home, but also a lot of times summer can be, as we talked about, the best time to pinpoint and remediate any cognitive skills that are causing learning challenges. We kind of get this gift of time where school has paused temporarily, and it affords us the opportunity to really work on some of these areas if your child does have some pretty significant deficits without having to compete with working with that with school and homework. The way that we improve our cognitive skills in a therapeutic way is a therapy called cognitive training. So certainly I've just covered many ways that you can work on these skills in a fun way at home. But if you're going, hey, my kiddo really needs some heavier duty support, that's our expertise at the Nectar Group. And we provide a therapy called cognitive training, which is working one-to-one with someone called a cognitive coach to really stress the weak areas of the brain, just like you could work with a personal trainer, and get the neurons to fire and wire together to actually correct the cognitive deficit and improve those underlying causes of learning disabilities. So we are going to go through many more areas here that will allow you to integrate these things like these games into your fun summer activities. But if you have questions about cognitive training, you can always reach out and we'll answer those as well.
Perfect. So let's discuss the other significant area we need to integrate into summer plans to prevent summer slide, and those are academic skills. So research shows that during the summer, and Andrea, can you go to the next one? During the summer, if you set aside 30 minutes to an hour each weekday for the whole family to engage in learning, you can maintain academic skills. So kids are much more likely to engage as well if the entire family is reading, doing puzzles or games, or academic practice. It just shows that learning or improving knowledge is a lifelong skill. It's not just for school. So it's a really great family activity to do. So a couple of great things that you can do to make learning more fun over the summer is choose fun places to do this. You can do your patio or backyard, when you're camping at a park or outside, make a really fun pillow fort, whatever's going to make it seem a little bit out of the ordinary from the school year. And also make brain-friendly, healthy snacks to go along with this time. We're going to give you a couple of recipes and suggestions later on in the presentation, but it's a great way to enhance overall brain health. Our first academic area we know we need to integrate into summer is reading. No shocker there. Research shows that reading just 6 books over the summer can keep a reader from regressing. They can keep where their level is at. So, during the summer, it's not that they have to have books chosen for them. They get to choose books. So I always like to suggest that parents have their kids alternate books. You can do one for pleasure that's like easy, and then one that's a little bit more difficult with new vocabulary to keep your child's skills up and even growing. Kids can also listen to audiobooks. I know that, when I was a kid, one of my favorite things we did was we went on a road trip all around Colorado and we listened to the Harry Potter audiobooks as a family. And so you can choose an audiobook that you'll all enjoy on a road trip, or they can choose their own audiobooks as well. There's some really great apps one called Overdrive, where you can actually rent audiobooks from your local library, and they download into the app and you have them for a couple of weeks, just like if you checked out a book. So check that out. Also, keep your kids reading out loud. You should also alternate between listening to your child reading and reading out loud to them to increase fluency and inflection skills. For early learners, we want to make sure that we're engaging in phonological awareness activities daily. There's a really great resource we suggest to every family that's called Reading Reflex. And it's going to give you a lot of activities of how you can teach phonological awareness for any of your littles. And then also engage in a fun vocabulary by learning a new word every day as a family. We always like to do a competition where your family can get points for using the word of the day in conversations. And then like you can have a competition and a prize for whoever is doing the best with the word of the day. Then, one of the best resources that we have that, is for free is the local libraries. So they're all reopening, and it's time to get your kids involved in their summer reading programs. For those of you who are in the like Cherry Creek, Douglas County area, Douglas County Libraries, they're doing their challenge Galaxy DCL to Books and Beyond, where kids get a prize just for signing up for the competition. They get a free book when they finish that however many minutes they're supposed to read for their age group. And then you can also register which school you go to, and the school from each age range wins $500 for their school. So I know Cherry Creek schools are not in Douglas County, but there's so many different school library districts that are publishing their summer reading programs right now. I looked for Arapahoe and Denver, and they just hadn't put theirs on the website yet, but definitely check out your local library, because the summer reading programs are a really great way to get kids to love reading and to have a little bit of that competition that always helps, spur them on. The reason why we should do summer reading is actually presented here on this slide. So the Library Research Center did a study on how summer reading programs impacted Colorado families. And for early learners and first-time families, these programs can be really motivating and impactful. For families who participated in summer reading for the first time, 61% said their child's enjoyment of reading increased. And 59% of parents of children ages 4 to 6 said enjoyment increased as well. And then 59% of parents of children 4 to 6 also saw their child's reading skills increase, along with families participating for the first time. So, when we're looking at our just beginning readers, this is a really crucial time for them to get to increase those reading skills. And finally, 61% of families of children ages 4 to 6 saw their child reading by choice increase. They're choosing that as an activity day to day. So that's really important. We want kids to love reading when they're going back into the classroom. Now, one of my favorite academic skills to work on in the summer is actually writing, which seems so counterintuitive for parents, but there's so many great ways, so many great ways to get your kids writing, including encouraging your kids to keep a journal. Kids are much more likely to write when they have prompts or guided writing rather than just writing about their day activities, because obviously, we've all seen our previous selves when we find our 8-year-old diary and it's like, today I went to the park. Instead, there's really great journals that have prompts already set out for the kids. So we put a couple on here. One is called the Big Life Journal, which integrates lessons on growth mindset, goal setting, cool stories, and prompts, which growth mindset, if you can have your kids really learn about how to push through, obstacles and mistakes, that's such a great thing to spend your summer on. And for the Life Journal, they have a kid and a teen version. So you don't have to worry about it being too kiddie if they're, a teenager. And then the other journal that I love to suggest is called One Question a Day. It's actually one that I bought for myself this summer. They have different versions for kids, teens, and adults. This one's really cool because kids answered the same prompt over the course of 3 years. So they get to see how their opinions, their thoughts, their beliefs change over those 3 years. And so that's why I bought it for myself, because I think it's such a cool activity even for adults to do. We love to suggest that you actually get the same journal as your kid, because when we talk about that like family learning time, they can see you engaging in that writing at the same time. Another great way to engage in writing over the summer is to write letters to others. You can adopt a senior, find a pen pal, write letters to themselves. I was a 8th grade teacher for 10 years, and I had my 8th graders write letters to themselves, and then every year I mail them their letters when they graduate from high school. So I actually been getting lots of emails this week from my kiddos as they get their letter from their 8-year selves. But you as a parent can do that, where they write a letter to themselves and then several years later you give it to them. It's really fun for them to get to reflect on how much they've changed. Also, you guys can do fun prompts based on activities you do as a family. So you can have a ghost story competition for camping, stories that include historical facts from a vacation destination, zoo-inspired animal adventures. So definitely integrate whatever activities you guys do as a family into your writing as well. And do those as competitions as a family. You can do what's called like a sentence writing activity, where you each add a sentence to a story and pass the paper around and you build a story together. It can get pretty fun, like Mad Libs. And then there's a website called No Red Ink, which is it's a really fun way for them to practice grammar. And they can write letters to, I already said they could write letters to themselves, but they could write letters to family members, as you know, we're all getting connected again as a community. So writing to me is one of the easiest things to do over the summer that can really build their academic skills. And then, as we saw from the statistics, math is one of the most impacted academic skills during the summer. We need to be intentional in building and practice, and there are ways just besides workbooks. Texas Instruments, like the calculator, they actually have fun STEM projects students can engage in on their website. We've also got a great resource. If you want, you can always reach out to us and we can send it to you. It's got dice and card math games that can make practicing math fact fluency and computation practice really fun. And then add math activities to your plans. So like, if you go to the pool, have kids estimate and calculate how much water is needed to fill a pool. Have them engage in, building a birdhouse, or better yet, have kids plan, calculate, build a mini golf course hole using geometry and measurement. And then Khan Academy is also a great website for free practice and lessons for all math levels. So those high schoolers, when we look at like how they can have some of the biggest summer slide, you can use those great free websites to keep those skills up. And then one of our favorite ways to teach math and science is actually in context. So it's to cook with your kids. You can teach counting by counting and sorting ingredients, to take inventory for a recipe and then take them shopping, build in that memory that Andrea talked about. You can explore measurements, liquids and solids, and then have children multiply, divide recipes based on the number of people. So if they need to double a recipe, and then explaining temperatures and how they impact cooking, how high altitude can impact cooking, and creating shapes and sizes to explore geometry. If you're making cookies, exploring how different shapes impact the baking experience. So those are great ways to integrate math into, just something you can do alongside them. Another great way is to garden with your kids. So set up a garden or a small planter box for your child. I've seen a really cool thing on Pinterest where like each kid gets like one of those small planter boxes and they get to choose what they plant. But this is a way to teach science in context. You can teach them about the climate here in Colorado, what's going to grow best over the summer. Let them choose plants and veggies and teach them how to properly care for them. You can keep a plant journal. There's lots of free ones to print online. If you just Google plant journals to document growth and life cycle, that's a way to integrate writing as well. Chart their growth. So, learning them how to keep a plot chart. Research and learn about how plants grow and processes like photosynthesis, and teach kids how to cook something healthy with their produce, where they actually get to harvest their veggies and use them for a brain healthy snack. Other ways to engage in academics, learning a new language is one of the best ways to engage multiple cognitive skills. learning how to play an instrument, like we already said, conducting weekly science experiments together. There's a website that we listed in the resources that has science experiments for all ages. And then create different art projects, chalk art, watercolors, painting, drawing, sketching, cartoons. Activate the visual processing by having fun with art.
You know, we've given you a lot of things so far, and we have some more for you as well. But if you also want some support or help this summer and want someone else to maybe be the teacher and do that, we have included in your packet some options that we do at the Nectar Group. We offer all kinds of fun things for Tier 1 and Tier 2 support. We have super fun creative writing camps, to what we call brain boost programs, which work on reading, writing, math, and also cognitive skills like processing speed or working memory. So we've included some details about those for you to review. We also have one of our favorites, which is our Choose Your Own Adventure summer programs, which gives you an opportunity to assess and then choose topics and choose a schedule that works around vacations and downtime and camps and all of those things. So just know that those resources are available if you want to go a little bit additional beyond what the suggestions are that we're talking about to address some of these cognitive and academic areas as well. So Danny is going to cover some of our additional areas for experiencing, creating experiences and enrichment also.
Yeah, so we're all super excited because so many things are open this summer that maybe weren't open last year. And that includes some really great museums. Now, museums last year created a lot of online virtual tours and like art projects that they posted for free on their websites, and they're keeping all of those on their website, so you can still utilize museums that aren't in your area. But now we've got our museums in downtown Denver reopening, and then we always say, like, there's really great self-guided walking tours. You can explore the history of downtown Denver. You can go into other small towns in the mountains, and they have self-guided walking tours online that you can download that explore art, history, that do scavenger hunts, really fun. There's art social media challenges. So, we've seen tons of these online where like there's different chalk art that your kids can do every single day where they participate and post a picture. And for like the art museum, you can go to the botanic gardens, another great way to kind of like compare their own garden at home with a bigger garden and flowers. Camp out in your backyard or elsewhere. Of course, we're from Colorado. We know that that's like one of the top things to do in the summer is go camping. Pick your own farms. There's really great farms all over, Colorado, where you get to like pay and you go pick your own produce based on what's local and what's in season. Go on hikes, go to the zoos. And another great one that we love to suggest is actually community drive-in movies. If you live near Denver, there's the 88 drive-in that's off of I-76, and you can go stay up late, see a couple of movies, but really just any ways that you can get enrichment that are outside of what we do in the typical school year. And if you're going on a trip this summer, which I know a lot of families are, there's really great ways to integrate academics in traveling. You can research the history of the place you're visiting, have your teens calculate mileage, gas costs, and put together a budget if you're going on a road trip. You can research the geography, culture, climate of the place that you're going to, and have them keep a journal or make fun creative writing prompts of the sites that you visit. And then our final area of planning to keep in mind for the summer, which is not it's not any less important than academics, is brain health. So, we know that the past year has taken a toll on all of us mentally, but especially with our kids. We know that depression and anxiety have been heightened, and we often think that summer is really relaxing for kids, but our children with anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions Summer can actually be a really stressful time and can cause a decline in mental health because of it. And it's because there's different routines or no routines at all. There's overscheduling, worse nutrition or sleep hygiene, and too much screen time. So, really easy things that we can fix for them. But it's important that we're aware that summer can be that stressful for kids because we think it's kind of counterintuitive. We think it's relaxing for them. So, ways that we can help kids cope and be happy over the summer: provide balanced nutrition and teach them how food affects the brain. We're going to talk about nutrition in just a minute. Maintain a sleep routine. So this is one of the number one things that we see with teens, especially, is they stay up all night and sleep in super late, and they dysregulate their sleep hygiene. And this can actually really impact your anxiety and your stress and depression. So having somewhat of a normal sleep routine, of course, if they have a sleepover one night, that's different, but trying to get it to be regulated as much as possible. Spending time together, summer is just such a crucial time for us to have bonding experiences and family experiences where, school isn't taking up so much of the day. And don't jam pack the schedule. It's so easy for us to put them in camps and to keep them really busy. But you do want to allow that balance, like we said at the beginning of the presentation, of really allowing for some relaxation, some slowing down, and not stressing them out by keeping things too busy. And then there's no better time than the summer to help reduce stress. So we suggest implementing some of these things with your kids. Learn mindfulness activities. There's a great book called Sitting Like a Frog that we recommend to families that's going to go over simple mindfulness activities that we do with all of our kids at Nectar. There's apps like Calm, and there's like kid versions where it leads you through mindfulness. And we've actually included 5 simple mindfulness activities in your packet. They're all super fun, and kids and parents should really enjoy them together. There's certain mindfulness activities that I integrate when I'm stressed out, so parents can enjoy them too. Also, get lots of sunshine and natural vitamins, maintain your sleep habits, listen to music, and engage in a fun new type of calm exercise such as yoga in the park or yoga on the rocks. The summer is the perfect time for us to just really bring our central nervous system down and help reduce that stress so that they are reinvigorated for next school year.
As Danny said, we'll do a brief mention of nutrition. We do a really extensive workshop on nutrition where we go a lot deeper, but we all know that kids, when they're home, tend to snack all day. It's been one of the problems with all of us, I think, during the pandemic of, I've seen so many parents and talked to so many parents who are saying they're eating us out of our house and home. And so we need to ensure that they are eating healthy. It can still be yummy, but eating healthy, because that unhealthy food, excessive sugar, can really impact our mental health and our brain function. So a few little tips that we share. One is to eat from the rainbow. Summer is the best time to get access to fresh, colorful fruits and veggies from the farmer's market. That can be just such a fun and expensive outing. When you eat from the rainbow, meaning you eat foods of all different colors, then you get vital nutrients naturally. And so, I actually, as an adult, even do this challenge with myself of making sure when I'm in the produce department, I'm getting something from every color category from the rainbow. A book that I always recommend is and they also have tons of free stuff on their blog, so you don't have to buy the book if you don't want to do that, but they also have it at all the libraries. You can check it out. It's called 100 Days of Real Food. They have a cookbook, like I said, and a blog, and it's a challenge for 100 days to only eat real food, and it's completely written by a mom for her kids. It's not one of those where you have to have 17 odd ingredients and things that your kids will never eat, or that you have to go on a massive hunt or spend, your whole paycheck at Whole Foods to get specialty ingredients. It's with normal everyday foods, but ways to really make sure you're nurturing your kids' brains. So that's a great recommendation if you want to try that. And then also a fun way to do is to try healthy cooking competitions as a family. Have your kids, like almost kind of, we have all these different like Chopped and different shows. So have people have the kids compete with baskets of specific ingredients, or even take turns where the kids plan a date night for mom and dad, or cook for mom a breakfast or something, and you're kind of making it a competition and everyone's going to vote and try the different recipes and those kinds of things. Another thing that's really fun is to make a family recipe book that you can keep. So even just getting like a simple 3-ring binder or doing it digitally, whereas your family tries new recipes or even creates them, that you store those. So good ways to kind of start to think about nutrition over this summer. And again, summer is the best time because we have all the fantastic, our Western Slope peaches and cherries and pears and apples and all of those things that will be coming. Summer is also the best time because of our great weather in Colorado, especially to get kids more physical exercise. Unfortunately, statistics actually show that children now gain weight more rapidly over the summer from sedentary lifestyles and poor eating. This equates to too many hours on screens versus being active outside. So encouraging your kids to create something like a backyard Olympics competition, or having them engage in like a fun neighborhood scavenger hunt. There's all kinds of cool free scavenger hunts you can pick up on the internet, print off. There's a really fun one I actually did at a women's retreat, and it was a nature scavenger hunt where you had to find all these different shapes in nature. And it was just great to get outside and actually pay attention to your environment. So tons of those, again, free. There's also a really cool app that I have to give Danny credit for because she found it, called Activate Fitness. And this is where you as the parent set activity goals, such as jumping jacks, walking a certain amount of steps. And what it does is it unlocks device time for your child. So if your child does want to have some screen time, video games, whatever, they can earn screen time by unlocking it through physical activity. So this is a great way to motivate them in a fun way where it doesn't feel like mom's just harping on me. So this leads us to one of our most important points about this summer specifically. A lot of kids increase the amount of screen time during the summers, and because of COVID, most kids in the ages of 7 to 18 have been engaged with 12 plus hours of screens over the past year per day. And this means that their brains really do need a detox from screens. Most kids get the opportunity to detox, or a lot of times I should say, kids get the opportunity to detox from screens by going to camp or on a vacation. But this is not the norm as much anymore. And so we need to be intentional with limiting screen time and offering plenty of other options to get their eyes elsewhere. You can set up kind of your own summer camp schedule that keeps kids engaged in outdoor activities and academic activities. Again, we don't want to overschedule, but it can be from 8 to 12, we do learning and outdoor activities. And then this is our window for screen time and those kinds of things. And then make sure that there is balance in usage of technology. The goal is no more than 2 hours of video games, Netflix, etc., without taking a break and going outside or engaging in a technology-free option. So it's always good to say we balance this. So if you do 2 hours of screen time, we do 2 hours of non-screen time so that you're getting that little bit of detox before the new school year starts. We all know that technology isn't going away, nor do we want it to, but we have to create that healthy balance. So a couple of other things, as I mentioned earlier, as we wrap up here, and we've just got a minute or two left, is that we do offer assessments. So we did mention earlier that summer can be a great time to assess. So we do have an assessment team. We have clinical psychologists, school psychologists, neuropsychologists, and a team of psychometrists. So we can pretty much test anything you want, from full psychoeducational testing to diagnose ADHD or dyslexia, other learning disabilities, mental health issues to cognitive, academic, college prep tests. So we have a lot of options there if you are wanting to dig deeper and get some answers for what's going on for your child. So again, you can reach out to us. In your packets, you have our contact information. You can always email us at getanswers@thenectargroup.com. So just get answers at thenectargroup.com and you'll be able to reach out to us. We also do offer, as I mentioned, our summer programs, but we provide one-to-one customized interventions that are all delivered by certified degreed professionals. We do cognitive skills work, academic work, study skills and executive function coaching, college test prep, all of those things that we've mentioned. And we are also always happy to provide complimentary consultations. If you want to help with your child's summer plan, you don't have to do a program with us to receive our help. We want to be a great community resource for families. And so always feel free to email us if you want a resource or you need help finding something. We're always happy to do that. So I think we're kind of at our time here to wrap up, but if there are any last questions, we're happy to answer them. And otherwise, we will look forward to hearing from you with any follow-up questions or support that we can provide.
Okay, so thank you so much, Andrea and Danny. That was such a great presentation and just so many fun, creative ideas for what to do with kids over the summer. I love it. A lot of these ideas are in the handout that is now up and posted on the PIN website. Again, that's pinccsd.org. And I just want to mention too that we're hoping to meet back in person in the fall. We will let you guys know. That depends, of course, on district guidelines, but that would be our hope. We would love to see your faces and just to get that connection back. So thanks again, Andrea. Thank you, Danny. Great presentation, great kickoff to the summer months. So thank you all for joining us this morning, and we will hopefully see you in the fall. Take care.
Thanks for having us. Take care. Have a good summer.